So week 9 is here. What will it take for the Raiders to go to Cincinnati and get their third victory of the year? That plus more on Friday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for November 1st, 2024.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. If you're checking us out on YouTube, you know we appreciate that. The show continues to grow each and every day. As a matter of fact, my man Ari, who's behind the scenes, does a great job making sure we're on YouTube, we're looking good, we're sounding good, has us up there on the regular, so we definitely appreciate that. Check out Ari. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces. I'm on Twitter as well, at your boy Q254. And we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line at 707-654-4693. And, of course, you can always check us out wherever you get your favorite podcast as well. It's not just a YouTube thing. So a lot of folks hit me up and say, well, what makes more sense, YouTube or just a regular podcast, the audio version? It doesn't matter. If you're checking us out anyway, anyhow, for as many minutes or little minutes that you do, we appreciate that. It goes a long way. So thank you so much for that. As I mentioned, we do have the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. We had no calls or texts on Thursday's show. We'll get back to that as we close out the show today on this Friday. Of course, it's segment number 2, as we do each and every Friday before game days. We talk about keys to victory. What is it going to take for the Silver and Black to this week go on the road to Cincinnati, early kickoff West Coast time, 10 a.m., and get a victory over the 3-5 Bengals? Neither one of these teams that live up to expectations, but the Raiders can only worry about the Raiders, so we'll talk about them in segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, news and notes of the day, as we always do, and we'll jump right into it after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create the account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Before we do any of that, though, we got to say, wake up, wake up, wake up. It's the first of the month, and it's a cool month because it's November. That's my birthday month. So we got to show a little bit extra love to November. Of course, that's the Hood holiday, the first of the month. Shout out to Bone Thugs. I actually had one of Bone reach out to me one of the months that we shouted out the Hood holiday and said, hey, man, thanks for representing on the podcast. So you never know who's listening, but shout out to the first of the month. As I mentioned, it is the Hood holiday, and of course, very special month because my birthday is this month. Matter of fact, it's coming up on Sunday, November 3rd. But let's go ahead and jump into what's important. News and notes. Let's start with the injury report from Wednesday and Thursday. Didn't have that on Thursday's show because we had the crossover edition, so I'll go through it really quickly. Of course, we'll get another injury report coming up later on this afternoon, and then we'll find out about 90 minutes before kickoff who's actually going to be inactive for the Silver and Black. But for the Raiders, guys that did not participate in practice, center Andre James, he's been dealing with an ankle injury ever since Sunday's game against the Chiefs, didn't participate on Wednesday or Thursday. He's a guy that if he does not go today, which I don't expect him to go, he's a guy that I expect to see out, inactive, and Jackson Powers-Johnson, the rookie, who's been playing the left guard position, but played a little right guard position, will end up playing the center position, which is what he did really well at Oregon. And it's funny, I was talking to Lincoln Kennedy on my radio show on Thursday, and I said, yeah, Jackson Powers-Johnson, I thought he did a pretty good job in limited snaps on Sunday against the Chiefs. And he said, well, me and you were watching 2 different games. And so when Lincoln Kennedy says that, I pay attention. But he said, no, what really stood out is the fact that he had false starts, and he's had multiple penalties so far his rookie year. And those false starts, especially at home, as Lincoln pointed out, like, you can't have that, right? I mean, that's you're on offense. You know when the snap count is, so why are you having a false start? So it's an attention to detail, right? It's what really matters. It's the big focus that you need to have. And so Jackson Powers-Johnson's definitely got to do a better job than that. I do think that he does do a good job from the center position. It's what he did really well at Oregon. He will get his start at the center position if Andre James can't go on Sunday, and I don't expect him to go. Also did not participate on Wednesday or Thursday, linebacker Robert Spillane. He's the guy that left Sunday's game with a lower leg injury, and I remember seeing him go to the sideline. I thought, oh, man, what's going on? They need to have Robert Spillane out there. He went, got in the blue tent, and returned to the game and played. And Antonio Pierce asked him in that game, hey, how are you feeling? I'm good. I'm good to go back out there. But he did not participate. So he has a knee injury. He did not participate on Wednesday or Thursday. I'm expecting him to play even if he doesn't practice today, but that could be one of those that all of a sudden on game time you see him on the inactive list, and it shouldn't be a shock because, again, he's dealing with a knee injury. I don't know how serious it is, but for him not to practice either one of those days, I do think that he's veteran enough to be able to go, but it's definitely something to pay attention to and show some concern. Zamir White, running back, dealing with a quadricep injury, was limited on Wednesday, did not participate on Thursday, and I'm sorry, I hate to say it, been pulling for Zamir White ever since he's been with the Raiders, as a matter of fact. Love what he did last year, the last 4 games of the season. But, man, he's been brother can't get right this year, right? When it's coming to trying to run in this new run-blocking scheme, he hasn't been able to pick it up. He's dealt with a groin injury. Now he's dealing with a quadricep injury. It just seems like every single little thing has been holding Zamir White back. So I don't know if he's going to play or not. I expect to see a lot of Alexander Mattison. He's going to get the start anyway, regardless. Amir Abdullah will be added to the mix. Maybe rookie Dylan Lobby will be added to the mix. Maybe they call up Sincere McCormick on Saturday like they've been doing ever so often. I don't know, but Zamir White has to be thinking, I know we had Halloween on Thursday. I'm not a big Halloween guy, never celebrated as a kid. Not a Halloween guy now. I'm the guy that turns off my light on Thursday, on Halloween, so everyone knows that, hey, I'm not giving out no candy, so don't come here. But Zamir White has had a nightmare season, right? If you just want to put it in Halloween references, he's had a nightmare season. It just has not gone the way that the young man out of Georgia thought it was going to go. And that's unfortunate. Thought he could slide in there and fill the void of Josh Jacobs, and really has not been able to do that. So those are the guys that did not participate. Harrison Bryant, the tight end, was limited with the elbow injury both Wednesday and Thursday. So we'll see. He didn't go on Sunday against the Chiefs, so we'll see if he's able to go. And Dylan Parham, the guard, he's been the right guard. He's been dealing with a foot Achilles type injury, was limited on Wednesday and Thursday. It'd be good to see him back, especially if JPJ has to slide over to the center position. You never know how they kind of reshuffle that offensive line. Left guard, maybe Parham goes into the left guard spot. Maybe he goes to the right guard spot. Maybe you see Andrews Pete. Maybe you see Jordan Meredith out there. There's a lot of different combinations that they can have for sure. But it would be good to see Dylan Parham back out there. So we won't know until we know if he's going to go or not. Again, we'll get an injury report later on today, and then we'll find out the inactives about 90 minutes before kickoff on Sunday. For the Bengals, did not participate. Tackle Orlando Brown, been dealing with a knee and a fibula injury Wednesday and Thursday. He's not going to go this weekend. Joe Burrow, he's good. He was a full participant, so he's straight. T. Higgins, a wide receiver, quadricep injury. He doesn't look like he's going to go on Sunday. Did not participate on Wednesday or Thursday. Also, guys that were limited, Sam Hubbard, the defensive end, dealing with a hamstring injury, limited on Thursday, not listed on Wednesday. Charlie Jones, the wide receiver, groin injury, not listed on Wednesday, limited on Thursday. And Geno Stone, safety, shin injury, not listed on Wednesday, limited on Thursday. Amarius Mims, the tackle, ankle injury, not listed on Wednesday, but he was a full participant on Thursday. So the ones to look at for the Cincinnati Bengals, Orlando Brown Jr., he's not going to play. T. Higgins most likely is not going to play either. So those are two pretty big names for Cincinnati that won't be in action coming up on Sunday, or most likely, I should say, won't be in action coming up on Sunday. I also wanted to pass along this sound from Albert Breer, Monday morning quarterback, SI now, a longtime NFL insider. He was on the Rich Eisen show on Thursday, and we just happened to play the Rich Eisen show on Raider Nation Radio 920. Actually, he comes on before JT the Brick, and then I follow JT's show. But he was talking about Mike Williams, and Mike Williams is the wide receiver that's in with the New York Jets, and he's a guy that I actually expected to be released after they acquired Devontae Adams. He hasn't yet, but Rich asked him straight up if Mike Williams was a guy that could be moved by November 5th trade deadline, which is next Tuesday, and he had a little interesting nugget to say about Mike Williams and the Raiders. Check it out.
Is Mike Williams available from the Jets?
Yeah, he would be another one. So yeah, you know what's interesting about him though? I can give you this little nugget on him. The Raiders tried to get the Jets to throw him in the trade for Devontae Adams, and the Jets wouldn't do it. Now maybe their stance on that has changed, but I know that won't happen for free, if that makes sense.
Not a big surprise when I heard Albert Breer say that the Raiders were interested in Mike Williams when they traded Devontae Adams. He's a guy that now GM of the Raiders, Tom Telesco, drafted in L.A. with the Chargers. So I fully expected Mike Williams to be in the rotation there with the Raiders wide receivers. I didn't know that they were interested in trading for him. I thought that at some point the Jets would just release him, because, well, he was already thrown on the bus multiple times by Aaron Rodgers, and now that he's got his guy Devontae Adams there in the mix, figured that Mike Williams wasn't going to matter, so they were going to release him, and the Raiders and Tom Telesco would pick him up. That hasn't happened yet, but don't be surprised if the Raiders do make some moves and try to pick him up, whether it's at the trade deadline or even in the offseason. They pick up Mike Williams. I do expect, especially since Tom Telesco has that relationship with him, that he'll bring him in sooner rather than later for a Raiders wide receiver, another weapon for whatever quarterback the Silver and Black have moving forward. Final little nugget I have for you for segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. We'll get into keys to victory coming up in segment number 2. Want to show some love and give some flowers to Brock Bowers, rookie tight end. He has been everything and then some. And I got to shout out my guy Tristan Kuhn on Twitter. Actually put this stat out the other day, put this tweet out the other day. Matter of fact, I think it was Wednesday. And so I just wanted to go ahead and acknowledge him and acknowledge what he put out. He was putting out some numbers for Brock Bowers. So, and we know that the Raiders record is not where it needs to be at 2-6. We get that. But Brock Bowers has been all that and then some. Check out these numbers. Pro Football Focus grade, he's ranked second, 88.4 PFF grade. 88.1 receiving grade, 3rd overall. 64.8 run blocking grade, that's 10th. And remember, this is amongst all NFL tight ends. All, not just rookies, all NFL tight ends. 64 targets, 1st. 52 receptions, 1st in the NFL. 535 yards, 1st. 10.3 yards per catch, 14th with a minimum of 20 receptions. 1 touchdown, tied for 15th. Obviously, they can get him more involved in the red zone. 2.21 yards route run, that's 3rd. 57 as far as 57 yards as far as the length of his longest catch, 3rd. 8 contested catches, 1st. 13 contested targets, 1st. Right? So, I mean, it's wild. 13 contested catch targets was 1st, and then the 8 catches that he has had has been 1st. So, again, I say all that to tell you that Brock Bowers has been all that and then some. Tom Telesco hit a home run with that first-round pick right there, and he's going to be a guy that you could build on. No matter who's on this Raiders team, he's a guy that you could build on for years to come. He is a very good young player for the Silver and Black. So excited to see what he does and excited to see what he does the rest of the season. He's already at 535 yards. They still have, 9 games to go, including Sunday. So he should be well over 1,000 yards if he continues to go on the trajectory that he's on right now. But that's what I got for you for segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Coming up in segment number 2, how do the Raiders go to Cincinnati and pick up a victory on the road? Well, we'll talk about that coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about a couple great sponsors on the show, including Game Time, the title sponsor. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play even easier. They filter out all the fluff, show you all the incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And that's what I like to do the most. It's funny, one of my buddies that actually works at a really nice restaurant here in Las Vegas, my guy Matt, he actually sent me a text because I asked him to save me and the wife a couple seats at the bar the other day when we were going to watch the World Series. And he took a picture of the seats and he said, here, you can check out the seats before you buy. And why did he say that? Well, because of one of the features that they have on Game Time. It's the seat views. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. It's one of my favorite features that they have here on Game Time because, again, you want to be able to know where you're sitting before you actually buy the tickets. So Matt, knowing that I say that all the time when it comes to Game Time, decided he was going to give me a little joke back and say, all right, here's your seats before you buy. So that was really cool. But that is something that you can take advantage of, including Game Time ticket coverage. The purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticket industry, and they have got the low price guarantee as well. So right now you should take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create the account, use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL. It's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. I also want to tell you about our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. And they know that being a passionate football fan isn't just a hobby. It's a way of life. It takes a lot of energy to power through all-day tailgates, touchdown celebrations, or agonizing second overtime. It's why they've created the Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot with a special flavor called Fan Fuel. The energy shot made just for super fans like you, the fans who are first in the parking lot and who are last to leave. We definitely see you. 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. And Raider Nation, don't we know that? Whether you're prepping for the big tailgate or ironing your jersey, your game day to-do list is always a mile long. That's why the limited edition Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot is here to help keep you fueled throughout the season. What's your fan fuel this week? Whatever it is, do it with a 5 Hour Energy. Available on 5hourenergy.com, and that's shipped nationwide. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast, keys to victory. You've got a 2-6 Raiders team going to Cincinnati to take on a 3-5 Bengals team. And we did the crossover edition on Thursday. Got a lot of good information from Jake Lisco, one of the hosts of Locked On Bengals. And, of course, I broke it down, all things Raiders. But now it's time to really focus in on the silver and black and what they need to do offensively, defensively, special teams-wise, and also on the coaching side of things. What do they need to do to pick up this win on Sunday? I'll start with the offense because the offense has been the big elephant in the room. The offense has been the big, what are you doing? How come there's no rhyme or reason? First of all, Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers, they have to be targeted early and often. You have to get your best playmakers involved. I know that they want to run the ball. I do. I get that. I understand why. You can't just throw the ball 60 times a game. I get that. But those two dudes are your best two playmakers. They have to stay involved, not just start in the first quarter and then not see them again or hear from them again until the fourth quarter. They must be involved early and often, all 4 quarters. Brock Bowers should not leave the game with less than 10 targets. He just shouldn't. 5's not going to cut it. 5 for Jacoby Myers is not going to cut it either. Got to light him up. Give them as many targets as possible because those are the guys that make things happen for you. The offensive line, got to stay penalty-free. As Lincoln Kennedy pointed out to me on my radio show, no false starts. And I get it, you're on the road. It's a little bit more difficult. It gets loud and all that good stuff, but come on. No false starts. You're on offense. As Lincoln said, you have false starts. That's a you thing. That's going to stop you from winning games. And even the Raiders' very first drive of the game on Sunday against the Chiefs was a false start penalty. Now, they were at 1st and 15. It's very rare that they overcome that. They did, but it's not going to happen very often. So they can't do that. The penalties on the offensive line, whoever is out there, Jackson Powers-Johnson will probably be at center. You might have Miller, Parham, Pete, JPJ, Meredith Glaze. I mean, any of those guys or all guys might be out there. Thayer Munford be out there as the extra eligible tackle. Line them up as a wide receiver. They did that before. I don't care who's out there. They've got to be clean, though. They can't have self-inflicted wounds. They cannot have false start penalties. There's holding could be called on every play. So if they get a holding penalty here or there, even though it's 10 yards and that's probably something they can't overcome, I can live with that. But those false start penalties, they have to pre-snap penalties. They got to cut them out. They can't have that. And also, Gardner Minshew, no turnovers. Can't turn the ball over. Defensively, we know that the Bengals can have the big play. Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase. So the Raiders got to cut that out. I have pretty good confidence that the defense is going to do a good job, but as I told Jake Lisco on the crossover edition, I'm interested to see Jacorian Bennett lined up against Jamar Chase. I know he'll have help over the top with the safeties, but Burrow to Chase cannot be big play happening. You can't see multiple big plays. Like the Raiders have to make the Bengals work for everything they get. They have to make them go the length of the field. They have to have them have lengthy drives. Those big plays cannot happen. You can't have Burrow to Chase 45 yards in a tutty. Right? You just can't. You have to make sure that they work their way down the field. They work their way down the field as a better chance for the Raiders defense to make a play. But that one big play just can't happen. The Bengals want to run the ball. They're not great at running the ball. They're getting a little bit better, but you got to really stop the run. There's got to be a focus on stopping the run, make them more one-dimensional, make them throw the ball 40 times, right? Because, again, it'll give the Raiders defense a chance to make a play, and I need them to make a play, right? Pressure, sacks, turnovers. That's how it goes. You get pressure, you get sacks, you create turnovers. They got to do that, but they've got to be able to stop the run. If they can't stop the run, Cincinnati is going to just go ahead and hand it off, matriculate their way down the field, and the Raiders won't be able to do anything about it. It'll be a low-scoring game, but it'll be one that'll go in Cincinnati's favor if they can't stop the run. As far as special teams goes, Cash Money Carlson, kicking those field goals, just keep doing what he's doing, right? The kickoffs, I feel like, are fine. Kick coverage team is fine. They're doing a good job. A.J. Cole, though, I do want to talk about him. He is a great punter. We know that. But more times than not, the last few weeks, his punts have been going into the end zone. He's got to keep him out of the end zone. Angle it. Make them start the field, on the 3 or the 4, not the 20. Too many times the ball keeps bouncing into the end zone. He's a really good punter. But when he punts at 60-something yards and the net's only 40, that's not good, right? I mean, it's great that he had a 60-something yard punt, but when 20 yards don't matter because they're starting at the 20 because the ball went into the end zone, then that's taking the weapon away that is A.J. Cole. So he's got to do a better job of angling the punt team. The coverage team's got to do a better job of getting down the field and down in the ball. Whatever the case may be, they've got to have a better day, again, because you don't want to have big plays from Cincinnati. So the best way for the Raiders to have a good job defensively and have a better opportunity defensively is have them backed up. If he's going to flip the field, have him flip the field all the way, not just part of it. Not just don't kick that ball. Keep the ball out of the end zone is my key. In coaching, I'm not going to talk about Antonio Pierce. I'm going to talk about Luke Getsy. AP is that we can do a whole segment on AP and what he's got to do, managing the game, this, that, and the third. He's not perfect. He's got a lot of room to grow. We know that. But with Getsy and that play calling, he's got to get creative. Apparently that there's going to be a package for Desmond Ridder. Okay, what does that look like? Right? I mean, the first 15 plays are scripted, right? He said on Thursday that that scripted is a cliche word and it doesn't really exist. There's no such thing as scripted or not scripted. That I would ring the bell on. What do I ring the bell on? Things that just aren't true. There is scripted plays. AP said when they get off script is when things go bad. Scripted plays, they look good, and they do. He's got to be able to be creative throughout the week. Again, Desmond Ridder apparently has a package, so what does that look like? How does he get involved in this game? Does he use his athleticism? I mean, this is a guy that in college at Cincinnati, where they're going back to, I mean, he had, 28 touchdowns on the ground in his college career? He can get it done with his legs. His arm, it's okay. It's okay, but he can get it done with his legs. So use him somehow, some way. If you get into the red zone, make him a weapon, but actually use him. They tried to bring him out there and trot him out there on Sunday against the Chiefs, and they had a false start, and you never saw him again. Again, the Raiders aren't good enough to overcome those type of penalties, so you can't do that. But Luke Getsy and that offense, I think, honestly, this is a big test for Luke Getsy. I don't think if the Raiders offense comes out and looks piss poor on Sunday, and then they go into the bye week, I don't think Luke Getsy's calling plays the next week against Miami. I just don't. I'm not saying he's going to get fired, but I don't think he's calling plays after the bye week if they don't look any better than they did against Kansas City, and they did not look good against Kansas City. There's a big test for this team in general going into this game on Sunday against Cincinnati because they do have the bye week afterwards, and the bye week is traditionally the week where changes happen if there's going to be some changes made. I think everyone should be on notice that you have to go out there, play a clean game, play with some pride, go out there and get a dub. Right? You've shown that you can hang with just about anyone in the league, but you got to go out there and really hang with them and really go out there and put your best foot forward, play a clean game, turnover free, execute the way you're supposed to execute, and call a clean game if you're Luke Getsy. And AP got to make sure he does the in-game decisions have to be on point too. So Matt Sheldon and everyone else who's helping him out with their decisions, they've got to be the right decisions. It's just that simple. So that's what I got for you for segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast, Keys to Victory to Sunday's game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Coming up in segment number 3, your calls and texts. Draft that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about FanDuel. And you should get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL and all in one place. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. So if it's not looking like the Bengals are going to be able to cover the 7.5-point spread, they're favored by that right now against the Raiders on Sunday. You can go on in the middle of the game, go to FanDuel.com and place your bet, lean one way or the other. You can lean towards the Raiders and say, yeah, I feel good about what the Silver and Black are doing. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts draft that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Let's start things off with UK Raider. He's calling to talk about the season, the way things have gone with head coach Antonio Pierce, and more. Here he is, UK Raider.
Thank you. This is UK Raider calling from across the pond. Been a Raider for 37 years. There's a few of us over here, so hopefully you hear this and you take my call. I just wanted to pick up on some of the themes you've been alluding to in the last few shows about playing scared. I was all in on AP. I really thought we were getting like the next Dan Campbell, hard-nosed, aggressive, blue-collar coach, real players coach who would make the team feel 10 foot tall, someone the players would run through brick walls for, someone who takes some risks and back his team, to do great things. Now, AP talks like a lion in the week, or at least he did, and all off season. But come game day, he coaches like a lamb. And what I'm talking about is kicking field goals when it's 4th and short in the red zone. It's punting when it's 4th and short at midfield. It's running out the clock at the end of the half when we've got a minute and 1 or 2 timeouts in the pocket. Instead of going for it, he's playing scared. He's playing not to lose. It's it's timid. And fundamentally, that's a big issue for me. I mean, he's the most conservative coach in the whole league. That isn't Dan Campbell, not one bit. I mean, but that's who AP is. So it seems to me. And I've lost faith, man. He looks lost out there. And honestly, moving forward, I really don't trust him to get things right. If Davis keeps him in the job, especially when it comes to a new quarterback, a new offensive staff. Is he going to make the right choices? I don't know. And fundamentally, this conservative, play scared approach, it doesn't work for me. It really doesn't, but we'll see. Anyway, Q, thanks for everything you do on behalf of the UK Silver and Black. There's a few of us over here. I've been a Raider for 37 years now. Love everything you do. Enjoy the show. Just win, baby.
UK Raider, thanks so much for the call. I absolutely appreciate you. And yeah, there's definitely truths to what you say about what he's done. He being AP as a head coach, obviously, is something that he needs to improve on, right? And we talked about it. I was talking about it in segment number 2, in-game decisions, setting the team up in the right position. They definitely need to do that. Question is, will he or not? I think that he definitely needs more time to be able to grow into this position. He's got 17 games under his belt as a head coach in the NFL. If you go back to the 9 games he had as an interim and the 8 games he's had so far as in 2024. So time will tell if he can turn things around, be that guy. I think he could be a really good head coach, but I feel like I'm out on the island, and the island doesn't have too many friends on it. It's me and a few friends. It's not a whole lot. I feel like a lot of Raider Nation is kind of over Antonio Pierce. But again, I think that there's still time for him to grow and show what he could bring to the table. But thanks so much for the call. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Raider Brenda. She says, "Hey, Q, I just listened to today's press conference. Luke Getsy is an idiot. I know it's not nice to say, however, it's the truth. He just said we're getting better and things have been going well. On what planet? What team and game has he been watching? I'm like you. I'm not a fan of terminating people, but when you have a guy like Luke acting like things are going well, the only choice is to make a change. He never owns that he calls these plays, and it's not been working. Thanks for all that you do for Raider Nation." That's from Raider Brenda. Thanks for the text. I appreciate you. And yeah, I listened to all Luke Getsy's his press conference. I wasn't there on Thursday. Had some things to do at the radio station, but I was definitely listening. And when he said that, I almost spit my water out. I was like, wait, hold on. Things have not been going well. And that's why I said earlier that I think this week is a big week for him. He's got to show that he can call a better game. Antonio Pierce said on Wednesday that he has to do better. He said, yeah, I mean, he's going to be the fall guy. It starts with him. Everyone has to do better, but it starts with him. He is the play caller. He's the offensive play caller, so a lot of it's on him. This week is going to be very telling, and we'll know by the time the game gets wrapped up, and it's an early game on Sunday, so we'll have a really good idea on Sunday what we think about Luke Getsy and what his role may be with this team moving forward. Again, he might not necessarily get terminated, but he could lose play calling duties. So I can see a guy like Scott Turner, a guy like Joe Philbin. Marvin Lewis is more of a defensive guy, so I can't see him being the guy. But Scott Turner, for sure, I could see them giving the play calling duties to him if it doesn't get better come Sunday. Raider Brenda, thanks so much for that. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Raider Dog in the 509. He's calling to talk about November 3rd, why it's a special day, and gives his thoughts on what's going on with Antonio Pierce as the head coach. Here he is, Raider Dog in the 509.
Hello, Q. This is Raider Dog out of the 509. Hey, November 3rd's always been a special day for me because it's my birthday. But I'll never forget back in the day when Tom Cable was coaching the Oakland Raiders and they beat the Seattle Seahawks on my birthday, and I was in the black hole in Oakland Coliseum, and they won 33-3. Yep, a lot of threes involved. And if you look at a lot of the statistics, which I won't waste any time going over, there was a lot of threes involved in that too. Derek McFadden had a great day, and it was quite the game. At any rate, I think today what's going on, and this is just my opinion, but I think AP is getting away from being himself and just starting to listen to too many people. There's that old saying that you can have too many chiefs and not enough warriors, and it seems like he's just not walking with the swag that he was. I mean, I realize the record's 2-6, and it's hard to have a swag when you're 2-6, but it's just like he's not the same person he was as an intern. I think he's gotten away from just being himself and going with his gut, and he's starting to listen to too many coaches up above him. I think it's time that he just went back to his old ways and did it the way he felt and feels in his gut. I think that makes him a true Raider, not listening to all this other stuff. Just an opinion. Have a good day. Talk to you later.
Raider D-O-double-G, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you, and have a happy birthday on November 3rd. you're in good company. That's my birthday as well. That's why I said November is a special month at the top of the show. As far as the Raiders and AP goes, it does feel like he might not trust himself or have that same swagger, as you mentioned, like he did last season. And again, it's a lot easier, man, when you're the substitute teacher and there are no expectations, right? When you're just in there and you're, hey, I'm doing the best I can. Most likely I'm not going to keep the job anyway. So whatever's going to be whatever. I'm just going to kind of go about it, kind of free your mind and go out there and do it. But now it's like, okay, now the pressure's on. So things tighten up a little bit, right? So I could definitely see the difference between AP last year and AP this year. And that's why I always say don't hire the interim. I always say that. But as you know, if you've been listening to this show for a while, I was very much in the category of, hire AP. He's the right guy for the job. I thought that after about the third week as him being the interim coach. So I'm going to stick with him. Like I've been saying for the longest, I'm sticking with him. I'm not going to bail now. But things do need to get better. And he does need to get back to more of that swagger that he had, that confidence that he had than what we're seeing these last 8 weeks and headed into week 9. So thanks so much for that call. I do appreciate you. And again, have a happy birthday coming up on Sunday. Just got time for a couple more. This text is from Flash in Modesto. It says, yo, Q, Flash from Modesto. It's the saddest Raiders stat I've ever heard. Andy Reid is tied with Josh McDaniels as the winningest coach in Allegiant Stadium. Shaking my head. I hope there are brighter days to come for Raider Nation. Looking forward to the draft to get our quarterback and turn this organization around. Love the show, Q, and go Raiders. Flash, that is a bad stat. We know that Josh McDaniels was only around for, a year and a half, and, Andy Reid has never lost in Allegiant Stadium, so there's that. That's pretty wild. That's pretty telling, and that's got to change. There's no doubt. That is that's a heck of a stat. So that's we might have been able to go without that stat, right? That's a pretty bad one, but thanks so much for it. I do appreciate you. We'll close out with this call from Sucker Free Raider. He's calling to talk about the Raiders, the Steelers, wives and girlfriends. Yeah, for real, he goes there. That's what he's doing on this one. So here he goes. He's going to make it all make sense and tie this together like some shoestrings. Sucker Free Raider, welcome to the show. Here he is.
Hey, Q, what's up, man? Sucker Free Raider. Over the weekend, man, after the game, me and a friend, we were talking. He's a Steelers fan. First of all, I'd just like to say, we shouldn't get rid of there's some people we need to get rid of as far as coaching, but it's definitely not AP. Like I said, my buddy's a Steelers fan, and we were talking, as far as like the difference, like, the Raiders always got these girlfriends that they keep, dumping and getting a new girlfriend. And the Steelers, they've been married for 900 years to the same coach, it feels like. But, we compared it to like, your wife or your girlfriend cooking something. It's like a girlfriend could cook something a certain way and you didn't really like it or whatever. Or she cooks it this way, something happened. You broke up with her, you get a new girlfriend and she's trying to cook the same thing for you. And, over and over, rinse and repeat. When the wifey, on the other hand, took a minute to start learning how to cook it, got the recipe down perfect, and then got it to the point to where now all she needs is maybe she's running out of a certain ingredient, and she gets one right behind it to fill in that spot. You get what I'm saying? Just like a player, when a player's ready to leave, you go ahead and get that same type of player or whatnot to kind of fill in that spot behind them to where it's your same recipe, it's your same food you're cooking, but you never have to switch it up so much. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's all I got to say, man. I say keep AP for a while. Let's marry up, man. Let's marry up and figure out the living situation with all the other coaches. But it is what it is, man. Go Raiders. Let's do it.
Thank you for the call, my man. As much as I thought this was going to be all over the place and I wasn't going to understand it and I was going to scratch my head, I actually understand what you're going to or how you're getting there. And maybe I don't. No, I do. But you're right. Teams that consistently stack the cupboard with what they want, what they need, what they feel comfortable moving forward with, they are teams that are allowed to let some folks go and realize that they have more talent behind them. But you have to have that same coaching staff. You have to have that same philosophy with your scouts that are out there looking for younger players. Like, that's the thing that the Raiders haven't had. They went from Gruden and Mayock's scouts and what they were looking for and what they thought a Raider was, to Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler, to what they thought a Raider was and should look like, to now what Antonio Pierce and Tom Telesco think a Raider should look like. Like, that's all happened in the matter of, the last 5-6 years. That's too much, right? Again, since I've been here in Vegas in 2021, there's been Gruden as the head coach, Bisaccia as the head coach, McDaniels as the head coach, and Pierce as the head coach. Like, that's way too much in that short amount of time, but that's how much turnover there's been. So you can't really have the ingredients that you need. You can't have a team that you're trying to build. You just can't. right? And so, the wives and the girlfriends and the comfortable dinner, this and that, that's a whole nother conversation. But I think I got the gist of your point about the talent. So thanks so much for that call. I do appreciate you. And that's going to do it for today's show, Raider Nation. That's going to do it for the week. We do appreciate you as always. I'll be traveling early morning on Sunday, headed to Bristol to go to ESPN. I'll be hanging out at the ESPN campus, so I'll be observing the game from there. Of course, we'll have the podcast back on Monday. Hopefully everything goes well. Actually, I'll be there next week all the way till Thursday. Then I'll head back to Vegas as the Raiders are on their bye week. So there's that. So there'll be plenty to talk about in the bye week. That's for sure. Hopefully we're talking about a Raiders win to start things off. But if not, even if they do, there could be a lot of changes coming up this upcoming week during the bye week. So we'll talk about it. You know we will. So until then, Raider Nation, take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Love on your family. Have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy the game on Sunday. And just win, baby.